Welcome everybody to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It's Wednesday. It's Mott and Chace Day. We've got Ben Scungio on, and there are big numbers in Rhode Island. Ben Scungio, walk us through it. This is sort of mind-numbing. We've been sort of playing at a certain level for about the last year. This is a significant change to the numbers.
It is. Well, first off, happy Wednesday, Josh. Best day of the week, right?
Special appreciate it.
Yes, special heat wave edition of the Mott and Chace numbers update. Yeah, for somebody who's been in the business, for as long as I have, since 2010, this is really interesting data to kind of dig into. So the median asking price for new listings in the state of Rhode Island have reached $509,000. So that means if you go from, one side of the state, from Narragansett or Watch Hill, to Barberville, the average price of a home that's on the market is $509,000. And the median price of a home right now is $490,000. I mean, I remember when it was $275,000 10 years ago. So, we have just seen year over year and month over month, these home values have just continued to appreciate dramatically. And if you do a little compare and contrast to Boston, I ran the Boston numbers for us today, and it's $700,000 for a single home in Massachusetts, not Boston, in Massachusetts. And that's a substantial increase from $650,000 just 1 year ago. So the market's still doing its thing.
But this is a precipitous change. I mean, this is, we've sort of been upward and upward and upward, but now we're hitting, and 1 month can be a slight aberration. A couple big houses in Watch Hill can shift the numbers a little bit, but here we were these are the June numbers that you're talking about. The May numbers, the median price of a single family home was $460,000. We've gone up $30,000 in a single month, and the whole year has just been going upward.
But I mean, if you look at all the data, right? List price up almost 10%, sales price up 11%. But then you look at all the other factors that we take into consideration, right? Inventory down 7%, pending sales down 7%, amount of units that have closed, down 20%. The supply is down 11%. So it's not all that surprising to me. We've been talking about this quite a bit for the past few years, that it's basic economics, supply and demand. When there's not a lot of supply, prices go up. I just pulled the numbers on the statewide MLS. There's only 990 single family homes. I mean, I came on here on Memorial Day weekend and I was saying, oh my God, Josh, we've had, a couple hundred homes hit the market, not Memorial Day, right before the 4th. So, it's kind of crazy, the market trends and what it's doing. I mean, it's not.
But Ben, just to add a point here, wasn't interest rate supposed to slow the increase in home prices because less buyers would be able to compete, and thus, if nothing else, you'd see a flattening of the increase. In previous expectations, you'd see prices come down. This is, this is a new era in real estate in Rhode Island.
But I have to say this regarding interest rates, that the more of my agents that I speak with and lenders that are out there, the amount of people who just sat on the sideline because the interest rates are too high, not necessarily because they could not afford the home, just because they didn't want to pay 7%, because they were so, it was, 3.5% was burned into their brain, right? They were like, if I could have paid 3.5% 2 years ago, why am I paying 7% now? It's a huge number of, for consumer-wise, a huge number of people out there. And they just said, we're good. But let me tell you, what we're seeing is that when the right house comes on the market for them, they're still jumping at it. So I think there's a tremendous amount of pent-up demand right now. And even though the rates were supposed to slow down the real estate market, it's just not the case. And now we're starting to see this economic data come out regarding inflation, saying that, Americans are cooling spending, so on and so forth. Interest rates are coming down. I just jumped on bank rate before I got on with you. And the average 30-year across the country is 6.86%, and that's down 12 basis points from just last week. The average 15 is 6.43%, and that's down 10 basis points from last week. Yeah. So now we're going to start to see rates trickle down slowly, right? And a lot of these people who are sitting on the sideline, they're going to say, all right, it's time to go out there and start shopping. And we've talked about inventory coming on, like a flood of inventory. I probably said it multiple times. With 990 homes available and with a ton of people sitting on the sidelines, it's going to be a really interesting real estate market this fall.
I mean, listen, you could see it double or triple, go up to 3,000. It wouldn't affect prices because there's so many people on the sidelines wanting to purchase, and the likelihood now of at least hints from the Federal Reserve that there will be an interest rate cut come in September, which will continue to push rates down.
Yeah, it's, and it's really interesting, right? The whole market, the market dynamics, everything that's going on. I would not hesitate to make, a prediction that we're going to see the average price of a home in the state of Rhode Island potentially go, exceed $500,000, maybe 525 by the end of the year. It's possible the way things are going.
It's just, salaries, household incomes have not kept pace in any way, shape, or form. Is this the reality of, we're just becoming a second home market, suburban market, because people can work from home, that we're just going to see more and more and more out-of-staters continue to purchase homes, putting more and more pressure on Rhode Islanders who just don't have the salaries to be able to touch a home for $400,000 or $500,000?
I think we're still going to see a lot of out-of-staters come to Rhode Island. The state offers so much, and I think that there is a value compared to a lot of the other surrounding states. But the X factor here is the amount of, if you own a home right now, the amount of equity that you have is just, it's unbelievable, quite frankly. And I might be exaggerating a little bit by saying that, but a lot of people are using the equity that they've built up in their homes over the past 5, 10. Some people have equity and they've only been in their homes for 18 to 24 months, and they're using that as their tool to buy their next home. And their salaries might have not caught up to where inflation is, or the cost of living, but that interest that they have is so important for them to be able to go and buy their next home.
You hit on it. You're seeing it push over 500,000, and maybe by the end of the year push as high as $525,000 for a single-family home.
It's possible. We've tracked the average price of a home in the state of Rhode Island as a company for over 5 years. We started right before the pandemic doing these market reports, so we're very much dialed into the data. We like using that data to inform our clients and inform our agents so they can give really great advice. In the trends there, a lot of people have said, hey, Ben, we're in the 9th inning of this real estate market. Oh, now we're in extra innings, or whatever it may be. And there's nothing out there. There's no economic factors that are really saying we're cooling down the real estate market. Like you just mentioned, Josh, everybody said when the rates go to 7 or 8%, it should cool the market. And that hasn't happened. So what is going to happen? What is going to be that economic factor that really slows down the market? I can tell you there's nothing nationally that people are talking about right now. So it's still kind of an unknown. And until that unknown is solved, we're going to continue to see the values increase.
Ben, were there any other numbers that stood out in the June numbers, and anything that sort of, besides these huge increases, was there anything else that gave you a little bit of a jolt?
It's the inventory, really. As months and months pass, at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of economists making predictions, that we were going to see inventory come back on, more inventory was going to enter the market. And we've seen, that happen every once in a while, but nothing substantial. We're still 990 single family homes, Josh. That's really low, and that's statewide. So for inventory to be down 11% year over year is really interesting. But I've touched on this quite a bit, is that we've been so used to market velocity being so high, so fast since the pandemic. Right. A lot of these agents felt like they were working 12 months out of the year. When I got into the business, and when a lot of other agents got into the business between 2010 and 2020, a lot of people were able to take vacation in July and August because it was so slow. People would get on the sidelines. They were like, no, we're going to look in the fall. We're going to look in the spring. Rhode Island was very much a seasonal market. So is this a seasonality conversation, or is this just we're going to be in low inventory for the foreseeable future. Only time will tell, right?
The lower inventory has to be pushing agents out of the market, though, right? You can't have 7,000 people working on, 400 houses closing in a month.
Yeah, I mean, the cream rises to the top, right? When time gets tough, the good agents work really hard and they typically do really well. So if I were to make a prediction, I would say there are probably less people pursuing this career right now.
Right.
But I don't have those statistics or those numbers right in front of me. But license renewal, our board renewal fees, they have started to drop off a little bit. But we feel that we have a great group of agents here. Nobody's dropping out of the business at Mott and Chace Sotheby's International Realty.
Yeah.
We're here to service our clients and make sure that we're able to realize all their dreams.
Ben, where do you see the fall? I mean, we're the middle of July. It should be sleepy town and everybody should be eating clam cakes. It's not happening. House went on the market on last Thursday. Supposed to have an open house Friday. It had pending sign on Friday morning. I mean, the house never got to its open house. It was gone.
Sure.
What are we going to see in the fall?
I think homes that are still priced properly based on condition, location, et cetera, are going to continue to thrive. Those homes are going to sell really quick. I mean, perfect example is a home on Humboldt Avenue that I sold recently on the east side of Providence. We had a really great strategy. We worked, very closely with the owner to narrow down what the price should be to attract as many people as possible. Myself and my colleague Josh Cullian, we sold it in 4 days for $150,000 over the asking price. So these stories continue to happen in the market. Similar situation right around the corner on Tabor Avenue, where I sold the second highest two-family home in the city of Providence this year for $1,390,000. So it really comes down to sound advice from your realtor. They're going to give you the best advice on pricing. And when you're listening to your agent and you're pricing it to what the market is saying you should price it to, you have to listen to when the market speaks. And when you're listening, you're going to have great success.
Going forward, what's your, I hate to even utter it, I try and work this in one way or the other. That first-time home buyer, that 35-year-old couple, they are tired of renting, they've got one child, they got a second one on the way. Yep. Renting just doesn't work for them anymore. Rental prices continue to climb in Rhode Island. What do you say to them? In the olden days, $275,000 home, great middle-class neighborhood, great for a starter home. Now you're talking about that $275,000 home is now $490,000 and pushing upward. What's the advice to them?
It's the same advice I've given, super consistently for my entire career, right? When you're a first-time home buyer, you should always focus on the numbers. You have to make sure you're comfortable with your monthly payment. When you work with, there's a lot of programs out there that different local lenders and national lenders offer that are advantageous to first-time home buyers that really help them make their first home affordable. And it's really just crunch the numbers, make sure you're comfortable with it, then listen to your local agent on how to structure an offer. Because most, just to be very, straightforward and candid on this, a lot of people who are selling their homes are looking for very clean, straightforward offers that they don't have to worry about, from the time of accepting to closing that there's going to be any problems. And sometimes, loan programs that first-time home buyers have can be a little bit more difficult to navigate through. So work with your local lender, work with your local agent, make sure you're comfortable with the numbers, and put your best offer forward.
Ben Scungio, Mott and Chace. It's Wednesday. It's a heat wave. Everybody get out to the beach as quick as they can and enjoy this great weather. Ben, as always, thanks so much for the insight. It is nonstop at GoLocal. I think we've had 3 or 4 updates already this morning, and we've got some big stories in the hopper we're working on right now. One, a very complex tragedy that I think we'll have either tomorrow or on Friday. Everybody stay tuned, enjoy the weather, enjoy the summer, and be safe. Thanks, everybody.